It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, there is light at the end of the tunnel. The Princess of Wales' message for cancer patients and their families. As she reveals tonight, she is in remission. Catherine returned to the hospital where she was treated, visiting patients and staff at the Royal Marsden and thanking the medical teams who had supported her. Tonight, we'll be joined by the hospital's boss and ask what impact the Princess's openness has had. Also ahead, drugs, weapons and mobile phones. The organised crime gangs using drones to deliver contraband into some of the UK's most high-security prisons. We'll speak to the head of the Prison Governors Association. Plus, just how easy is it to get hold of prescription weight loss drugs, even if you don't meet the medical criteria? We have a special report. And tributes to a comedy great, Tony Slattery, who has died at the age of 65. We'll be joined later by his podcast partner, Alan Lear. All that to come and much more on the UK Tonight. Good evening. All of that coming up in just a moment. But first, we're going to start tonight with some breaking news from South Korea. This story developing just as we're coming on air tonight. Authorities have arrived at President Yoon's official residence. This is to execute an arrest warrant, we understand. It's over insurrection accusations related to his declaration of martial law back at the beginning of December last year. They have tried to execute this arrest warrant before, earlier this month. They were serving the first ever arrest warrant issued against a sitting South Korean president. This was after a standoff with hundreds of presidential security agents and military guards. They were not successful on that first attempt on January the 3rd, but it's understood that their second attempt is about to get underway this evening. Well, early in the morning in Seoul. It is just after 5 o'clock in the morning. So that is unfolding as we come on air tonight. We'll bring you more in the world, which is coming up with Anna Botting, which follows our show tonight at 9 o'clock. Now, the Princess of Wales revealed tonight that she is in remission from cancer after making an emotional visit back to the hospital where she was treated last year. In a message on social media, Catherine described her relief, saying it takes time to adjust to a new normal. Earlier, she met patients and their families, along with staff at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London, thanking the teams who had helped to care for her. Our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, was there.
For months, we didn't know the princess had been coming here privately, and neither did they. This a very public opportunity to say thanks to all those at the Royal Marsden, a world-leading cancer hospital, who treated and supported her. The princess also using this moment to share an important update. It is a relief to now be in remission, she wrote, and I remain focused on recovery. As anyone who's experienced a cancer diagnosis will know, it takes time to adjust to a new normal. We have got used to a new level of openness from Kate.
Just when you start to feel a bit better off the back of the two treatments, you're then like, I mean, today I feel great.
But it still surprised patients like Catherine Field, who'd come in for her own course of preventative chemotherapy.
I've just had a port put in and she had the same, so it was just nice to hear how she felt about it. She said she was quite attached to it, which is a nice thought because I've just had it in, so it feels like a completely foreign entity at the moment, but it will really help, I think, the treatment. So it was nice to hear from somebody else who's gone through the same thing that it does get easier.
What she's gone through clearly extends to her family too, with a new concern for those who have to step up and support.
It's been tough, really, really tough. Lots of family members. That's why we're just trying to invest. There's no money.
We don't know if her treatment was on the NHS or private. The princess just grateful for their ongoing care.
I think sort of the treatment's finished. Crack on, get back to normal. Actually, simple daily talks are still like a real challenge. We're talking, and suddenly the words totally disappear.
The announcement that she's also going to be joint patron here along with Prince William shows this isn't just a fleeting thank you, but that raising awareness of cancer is something she intends to do in the long run with her very high-profile role.
You're okay. Stay strong, okay? It's lovely to meet some of the patients who are here today.
Sorry, which is what I could do to help. I want to come and show my support for the amazing work that's going on here.
Her visit could not have been more appreciated. We are told her return to public engagements will still be gradual, but her new conviction to be more open and public in other ways could not be clearer if she thinks it's going to help others. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News, at the Royal Marsden Hospital.
I'm joined now by the Chief Executive of the Royal Marsden, Dame Callie Palmer. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining us tonight. I want to ask, why was today so important, not just to the Princess of Wales, but to the staff and patients at your hospital?
Thank you. It's really uplifting for both patients and staff to have the Princess visiting today and sharing her experiences and her cancer journey with everybody. So totally uplifting and wonderful to raise awareness of cancer, the cancer journey, and of course the real importance of early diagnosis for the best outcomes for patients.
Yeah. The Princess of Wales was treated at your hospital in secret. Nobody knew that she was going there, and everybody's cancer experience is different. Some people like to keep their diagnosis and their treatment details to themselves. Others find solace in talking and sharing their experience. She didn't have the luxury of choice, really. And I just want to get a sense of what it was like to be there today, because you saw her sitting with patients, going through similar treatments to those that she would have had in similar rooms to the one she was in. And I just want to get a sense of the shared experiences that she shared and connected with patients about today.
Yeah, it's a very emotional experience for people coming back into the hospital, particularly having been through the Princess's own journey. But just spending time with patients, talking about her experience, allowing them to talk about how they felt. And they covered, some of the patients were in research, in clinical trials. Some of the patients were receiving supportive therapy, so psychological support, brain fog help, because chemotherapy can sometimes make people feel that they're in a brain fog. So she was looking at supportive therapy, research, and of course clinical treatment with the patients she met today, sharing her experience and allowing patients to share theirs with her too.
Well, the connection between the Princess of Wales and the Royal Marsden couldn't be stronger or more personal. And now her and the Prince of Wales are your joint patrons. Talk to me about that conversation and why they wanted to get involved. It seems obvious on the surface, but talk to me about the work they can do.
The Prince of Wales has been our president for many years and has had a deep and long interest in the work that we do to really impact survival for patients around the world through our leading edge treatments and our research. But to have the Princess on board with him is really, truly such an honour, and we're absolutely delighted. It shines a light on our work. It raises issues around cancer awareness. And I know they will both have a sort of long and deep relationship with the hospital. They take their patronages really seriously, and we're absolutely delighted and thrilled to have their support.
Yeah, you mentioned the phrase shines a light there because, of course, wherever the Princess of Wales goes, that spotlight follows her. And as I said, this is such a personal connection for her. The Kate effect, as it's called, with whatever she touches, the attention follows. And there is a ripple effect. What have you noticed since the Princess of Wales went public with her diagnosis and now talking about the fact that she is in remission? What have you noticed it do to, not just the awareness of cancer, but to the community, those living with cancer?
Well, it's been immensely courageous of the Princess to talk about her own experience. It allows other people to share theirs and hopefully to take some of the fear away. And as the Princess has said, it's very important to keep positive, to have a positive approach, because cancer treatment can often be a bit of an endurance test. Having the Princess sharing her experience, patients sharing with her too, raising awareness that we should be talking about cancer, identifying symptoms early, and just ensuring that we can give every patient the best possible outcome. All those things are incredibly important for everyone going through a cancer journey.
Yeah, and she identifies with the emotions that everyone will feel, you know, patients and families. She talks about her relief at being in remission, her focus now, because, you know, after you've had cancer and you're in remission or cancer-free, it never leaves you, does it? That worry that it might come back. You know, you're in that mindset for life. She talks about the adjustment to a new normal. This is the kind of language that everyone uses when it comes to cancer, and it's a leveler, isn't it? And I think her talking about it like that, it's not, you know, like her life's all rosy and it's just going back to normal. She says it's a new normal, and it's really important to talk about that, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I think, so the new normal is a good way to put it. I think people think about their priorities and their approach to life when they've been through such a difficult experience. People feel very vulnerable, understandably, when they go through cancer treatment. And for the Princess to share that is immensely reassuring for so many people who are experiencing a similar experience in their own lives.
And Dame Callie, it's worth reminding people about the work of the Royal Marsden. Whenever cancer is spoken about, Royal Marsden often comes up. It's seen as the best of the best, you know, a beacon for cancer treatment. It's worth reminding us of the work that you do there, the numbers of people that you treat and the staff involved.
Yes, we sit in the sort of top 4 cancer centres in the world with our academic partner, the Institute of Cancer Research. So it's very important to give every patient the best personalised treatment that we can give, but also to contribute to improving survival globally through our research. So we treat over 60,000 patients every year, and we run something like 1,000 clinical trials at any one time to try and really make a difference for people here in the UK and also globally, working with other cancer centres around the world.
Oh, well, Dame Callie Palmer, CEO of Royal Marsden NHS Foundation Trust, really good to talk to you tonight. Thank you. Talking to us about the news that Her Royal Highness is now joining her husband, the Prince of Wales, in becoming joint patrons of their specialist cancer centre. In other news tonight, police in Aberdeen say they are investigating whether 2 sisters who have been missing for more than a week now may have gone into the River Dee. 32-year-olds Eliza and Henrietta Husty are part of a set of triplets and are originally from Hungary. They disappeared in the early hours of last Tuesday morning, and police say their disappearance is not being treated as criminal. Our Scotland correspondent Conor Gillies has more details.
This mystery is now more than a week old. As the days go by here in Aberdeen, it is becoming a grim picture. At the centre are sisters Eliza and Henrietta Husty, Hungarian nationals who moved to Aberdeen 6 years ago. Now they've vanished without a trace. Specialist police have been scouring the land and water in a city desperate for clues.
There is nothing at the moment that we have found in the course of those inquiries that indicate that there are suspicious circumstances or that there has been any criminality involved. There are no suspects. This is not a criminal inquiry. This is a missing person inquiry.
Detectives revealed Eliza and Henrietta recently said they were ending their tenancy at this rental flat, their landlord raising the alarm, and their bank accounts remain untouched. The pair were last seen on CCTV in the city centre just after 2 a.m. on the 7th of January. Then they crossed Victoria Bridge and turned right, walking onto a footpath next to the river in the direction of Aberdeen Boat Club. They haven't been seen since. This is an industrial area away from the city centre with very little movement overnight. The conditions at the time of their disappearance were sub-zero, and that makes the turn onto this path even more baffling. It would have been thick with ice and treacherous. A concern for other Hungarians in Aberdeen.
I guess like if you're Hungarian, you felt more closely touched and you were more related to this and even more shocked. So many times I walked in that footpath, not obviously in that harsh condition, but like I could even relate more.
Detectives are now scanning the sisters' history, their movements, their phone activity. One former friend told Sky News they were a very closely knit pair, very friendly and trusting. They did not drink or take drugs. Based on how I know them, they were not prone to make very impulsive decisions. The Husty family say they're increasingly worried. So too are police, who simply cannot find an answer to one simple question. Why were these sisters out in the middle of the night? Conor Gillis, Sky News, Aberdeen.
The Chief Inspector of Prisons has warned that the use of drones to fly drugs and weapons into UK jails is a threat to national security. Charlie Taylor has called for urgent action, accusing the government and police of giving up control of the airspace around high-security prisons to organised crime gangs. Well, we can talk about this in more detail. The president of the Prison Governors Association, Tom Wheatley, joins me now. Tom, good to see you. What kind of scale are we looking at now? Just reading reports today, they focus on a prison in Manchester and one in Worcestershire. But is this just a snapshot of a wider problem? What's the scale of it?
So it certainly is a wider problem. Things are being conveyed into prison via drone on a daily basis. It's a significant issue and one for which we don't have an effective response as yet.
Now, explain to me how it works, because most people would imagine a drone flying over prison grounds, dropping something in the yard of a prison and prisoners going out to collect it. But it's actually a bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah, so that kind of thing does still happen, but lots of drones are coming to prison at night when the prisoners are all locked up, they're all in their cells. And with the use of illicitly held mobile phones, prisoners are able to direct drones to their cell windows. So cell windows were designed to stop people getting out. Much of the prison estate was built in Victoria times when drones were not a problem anyone even had to think about. So we've not designed prisons in a way that makes it difficult for people to use drones to get things into prisoners. And prisoners are literally able to guide drones to their cell to receive whatever contraband has been brought in.
Yeah, and it's mainly drugs, weapons and mobile phones, which, of course, currency in prison, as well as used to carry out more criminal activity. What kind of resources are needed to address this problem?
Well, the resources needed are significant. This is an organised crime issue. So this isn't somebody's friend who's gone and bought a drone from a local shop who's using it to bring things into prison. These are organised crime groups who have at their disposal significant resources, and we need significant resources to battle it. So the things that really work are new designs of window that prevent people getting access to things delivered to a window by a drone. It's things like netting to stop drones being able to gain access to the cell windows of a prison wing or any other open area. But it's also working closely with law enforcement agencies, with the police, to try and tackle the organised criminals that are behind this.
I mean, Tom, just listening to you speak, that is going to take a lot of resource. I mean, it's just added to the list, isn't it, in terms of the problems in UK prisons at the moment and what needs to be fixed. In Manchester, 39% of the prison population tested positive for drugs. The consequences of what we're seeing happening with these drones is seen in the stats. I mean, again, violence and self-harm increasing in UK prisons. What about staff safety? Because, of course, they're seemingly powerless to do anything about this, and they are feeling the brunt of it. What's the effect on the prison staff?
Well, I mean, staff safety is coming to work in a safe environment, knowing that you're going to go home at the end of your shift intact is important in any work. And where we know that prisoners are able to get weapons in on drones, that is a risk to staff safety. So this is a real threat not only to staff working in the prison, but to other prisons, other prisoners, because the weapons are brought in to enforce the debt that comes from the illicit trade in drugs inside a prison. So, because you can't use legitimate means to enforce debts that are gained through drugs that you've had brought in via a drone, you need to use violence to enforce those debts. So this is driving violence as well and making our prisons less safe. It's a significant issue.
And what's it doing to staff morale in terms of the confidence of being able to do their job properly, the effectiveness of their position?
Yeah, I mean, it is a threat to that. It's really clearly, it makes that more difficult. We run prisons on the basis that we are in control. We're in control of what people do in there, and we're in control of what items and what they can have access to. If they can circumvent that through the use of drones, then we don't know what they've got. that can be a particular threat, but it also means that staff aren't in control of what's going on in the prison completely. And that's a very difficult place to be. That will make people feel significantly vulnerable.
Tom, this drone network, relatively new, probably only going to increase without it being checked. What are the consequences of this increasing?
So, I mean, I don't know whether it will increase. It's a problem that first came to the fore around about 10 years ago.
If it goes unchecked, because it sounds like there's nothing being done to stop it. It's, operating without any punishment or effective measure of stopping it.
Well, I think there are things being done to stop it, but it's actually about catching the people who are doing it. So that's quite difficult to do. Drones can be flown, the technology is such they can be flown from, significant distances away from a prison. And the drones themselves are, in essence, they're expendable. If they crash, if they are captured, then they just go out and buy another drone. So this is about working closely with the law enforcement. This is about tackling the people behind this. And that's what we've got to do if we're going to get on top of this problem. We can harden the target, so we can make it more difficult by changing the built environment in the prison. But we can also make it less attractive by reducing the demand for drugs in prisons. So, having full regimes where prisoners are able to do lots of different things, where they're not locked in their cells for significant periods of the day, make drugs less attractive. So all of those things have got to happen to enable us to get on top of it.
Yeah, it's a really complicated picture, isn't it, with so many components that need to be operating effectively for it to work. Tom Wheatley, really appreciate your time tonight. That's Tom Wheatley, President of the Prison Governors Association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come on the UK Tonight, we'll be taking a look at how reliable fertility tracking apps are, as a new study finds more women are having abortions after using them. Also ahead, just how easy is it to get hold of prescription weight loss drugs, even if you don't meet the medical criteria? We have a special report coming your way. And tributes to the comedian Tony Slattery, who has died at the age of 65. I'll speak to the co-host of his podcast later in the programme.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
President for a second time.
That reason being to save our country, he said.
A remarkable moment, isn't it?
Another chance, another 4 years. The question is, what does he do with those 4 years?
Watch the inauguration of Donald Trump as he becomes president for the second time.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The full story, first on Sky News.
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent. Free wherever you get your news.
I'm Mark Stone, and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C. Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Katie Spencer, and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent.
I'm Lisa Dowd, and I'm one of Sky's Midlands correspondents. The reason I do this job is because you never know where it's going to lead.
I'm Alex Crawford, and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place for news.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised.
If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
A new study has found there has been a significant increase in the number of women seeking abortions after using natural methods of contraception, things like cycle tracking apps, to avoid pregnancy. Researchers from the British Medical Journal say their findings show a shift in contraception used in the last 5 years, from hormonal contraceptives like the pill to more fertility awareness-based methods. Well, let's speak to Head of Advocacy at the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, Rachel Clark, who joins me now. Good evening to you, Rachel. It's worth just talking about what these fertility apps are for those who aren't aware of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are, I suppose, apps or websites, algorithms, which enable women to record information about themselves, whether it's the date of their last period, their body temperature, that helps them determine where they are in their menstrual cycle. So a woman is only fertile for a couple of days a month as part of her cycle, but you don't always know when that is. And so what these apps try to do is to pin that down and make sure that women aren't having unprotected sex at a time when they might get pregnant.
Why have they become so popular, do you think?
It's really interesting. I think we've seen quite a lot of studies, particularly around Europe, that has dug into why it is that particularly younger women are interested in this kind of approach. And some of it seems to be a bit of hesitancy around using hormonal contraception. Some of it might be that that women have had really bad experiences with certain kinds of contraception in the past. So, for instance, it might be weight gain, it might be mood changes, it might be simply something that hasn't worked for them, even if it works for other people they know. And one of the other things that we do know, particularly in the UK at the moment, is that there is issues with access, so trying to get access to contraceptive choices through, whether it's through your GP or through sexual health services, is actually really difficult. About half of women say that they've struggled to access contraception in the last year.
And it's the accuracy of these fertility apps that I guess are being called into question, with the number of women using them needing access to an abortion.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really good long-term evidence on the use of hormonal contraception or non-hormonal contraception like the copper coil. The apps are a lot newer and there are a lot of different ones. So only one app is licensed for use as a contraceptive across Europe. But what we know from studies is that the failure rate can vary between 2 and something like 23%, whereas there's an average failure rate for the pill, for instance, of 7%. So what you can see is that some women who may go into this thinking, that there's a lot of evidence for this. This is a bit of a surefire way that I can control my own fertility. That may not be the reality of what they're experiencing.
Is there a particular age range of those that prefer these fertility apps? Because there's been a lot of talk about the fact that social media is where a lot of young women are getting their medical advice and exploring these wellness issues or getting fertility advice. And a lot of this is directed at the fact that, a lot of young women see something on TikTok and take it up.
So I think it's really important to note that this study from our patients shows that although there has been a big increase in the number of women using these kind of methods, it still only accounts for about 2.5% of the women who come to us. And I think what we do know is that, yes, there will be some impact of things like social media, of things that they've heard from their friends, discussions that go on in the media around the impact of different kinds of medication. I think one of the big issues that we sometimes overlook is the delays in access to contraception, the issues with getting a GP appointment or getting an appointment at the sexual health clinic. It's not just about
you have to see a GP, a general practitioner, who may not be a specialist in contraception. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of women will say, I've been to see my GP and they just said, oh, well, this is the one we prescribe. Off you go, come back if you don't agree with it. There's a lack of sort of specialist advice available to women for something that many women will be on for most of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that nearly, you know, I think about 85% of women have changed their contraception type in their lifetime. So what we know is that often the first kind of contraception you use isn't the one that you want to stick with. So it can be quite difficult for women to get the advice they need, as well as to get access to the kind of contraception that they really want.
And can you just reflect perhaps on the wider implications for the healthcare service when it comes to the decline in the use of effective contraception and the increase in abortion rates as a result?
So what I would say is abortion, I think, is the way that abortion's provided has changed almost immeasurably over the last, you know, even 5 years. What we see now are many, many women accessing abortion incredibly early in pregnancy at 6 to 8 weeks. You see women who are taking medication in their own homes. So the kind of pressure on the health service that we may have seen in the past, because you might need doctors and surgical services and space in hospitals, isn't really there anymore. Ultimately, for us, the most important thing is making sure that women go into their choices of contraception or not with their eyes open and know that contraception is available and abortion is always available as an alternative option if they need it.
Rachel Clark, Head of Advocacy at British Pregnancy Advisory Service. Really good to have your time this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Still to come on the UK Tonight. Just how easy is it to get your hands on a weight loss drug, even if you don't meet the medical criteria? A special report on the way. More than 500,000 people in the UK are said to be taking weight loss drugs, with demand for them growing month on month. The vast majority of those people access the drugs like Ozempic or Wegovy through private prescriptions with strict medical criteria about weight and body mass index. But what happens when people cheat that system? For example, lying about their BMI. Well, Sky's Lucy Molly has been taking a look into it as part of our Off Limits series, revealing just how easy it can be to get hold of a prescription and how significant the consequences can be for people who really don't need these drugs.
It's been called the miracle drug that promises weight loss.
Ozempic totally changed my life.
Used by some of the most influential celebrities. But is it too good to be true?
People missing holidays because they thought they'd take this drug to look good for their holiday and ended up in hospital instead.
And too easy to get.
And I started vomiting and going in and out of fainting.
I mean, how would they even know what I'm saying is true? OK, just by doing some Googling, I can see you can get Wegovy, which is the weight loss drug, from online pharmacies, but also Superdrug, Boots, and even Asda. So I've been really interested in how these drugs have not just impacted diet culture, but also popular culture. It's all over the internet. Originally developed to treat diabetes, this drug is now widely used for weight loss and is available on the NHS. But you'll probably know it as Ozempic, Wegovy, or Saxenda. It's a weekly injection that mimics GLP-1, a hormone that helps regulate hunger and slow digestion. The drug is used alongside diet and exercise to help manage weight loss. So if your BMI is over 30, or you have a BMI of 27 and over but have pre-existing medical conditions, you would qualify. But from celebrity endorsements to even the UK government proposing that the drug could get people back to work, it feels like Wegovy is everywhere. And for the people that do qualify, the drug can be life-changing, being with weight loss, reducing the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and heart failure. But the thing is, I keep hearing people using it who definitely don't qualify for it. And the last thing I want to do is glamorise the drug. But this also isn't a film about the morals of who should or shouldn't be taking it. But I just wanted to find out, if you don't qualify for it, how easy is it actually to get? OK, so I'm going to start with Superdrug, because they have an online doctor where you basically apply for the weight loss drugs online. And then I'm also going to try verified online pharmacies, so Simple Online Pharmacy is one. I'm being asked to fill in some personal details, health history, my GP. It is telling me about the bad side effects I could possibly have. And it's asking me for some pictures, which I guess is to verify my weight. Obviously, I know what the criteria is, and I'm just going to slightly increase my weight because I don't qualify at the moment, and see what checks there are further down the line. OK, cool. I think that's done. Now we wait.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm almost here. Okay, better?
All good.
I started on Wegovy in August of 2023. I've been a class 3 obese person for the first 32 years of my life. I heard of certain celebrities using Ozempic. So I reached out to my primary care physician and made an appointment. That's what started my weight loss journey. I'd always been an active fat person, but I just never pursued weight loss before. I've lost 115 pounds so far.
You were beautiful before, but you look amazing now. But I think it's really interesting what you say about you don't feel any different, because we've chatted before and you say you feel kind of body neutral. Is that right?
For sure. I definitely think the biggest part of this whole undertaking has just been to remain body neutral. I feel like there's kind of there's this like thought process around like, if I just lose X amount of weight, then I will feel a certain way. But I think if you just like love your body at every stage, that's kind of the best guiding light versus like, oh, if I just lose 20 pounds, I'll feel so much better about myself.
So I'm just on my way into work and obviously check my morning emails. And I've already been approved by Superdrug and Simple Online Pharmacy for Wegovy, which to me feels quite quick, considering I literally did the application a couple of days ago. So I feel like if I can get it, then surely other people can.
So we've seen some patients who've got this from online pharmacies and they've actually not been truthful about their weight because they're so desperate, because they've heard that this is a wonder drug, so they've lied about their weight or whatever. I started to see occasionally people come in with complications of weight loss drugs, and then it seemed to be increasing in frequency. And there was one shift that I'd seen this particular lady, and I felt like I'm seeing somebody every shift now who has had some complication from taking a weight loss drug. And the thing that really was there the whole time with these patients is that none of them had really been obese.
It's impossible to talk about Ozempic and Wegovy without social media. Body image is still a conversation despite lots of empowerment campaigns. The hashtag weight loss has over 10 million posts on TikTok. And with celebrities and influencers openly talking about it, the drug's impact hasn't been just medicinal, it's been cultural.
So what we're seeing is people coming in feeling absolutely wretched. Maybe they've been vomiting or they've got diarrhea and they're really listless and lethargic. Often their salts are deranged, they're very dehydrated, and sometimes they're even in a starvation process. So similar to when people sort of can't have any food for a period of time. So we have to then replace the salts and electrolytes and the fluids with a drip to make them feel better. And sometimes that can take place over several days.
Okay, she's calling. Just quickly, this is a woman I'm interviewing and she was on the weight loss drugs when she didn't need to be on it, and we're going to keep her identity completely anonymous. Do you mind if we just start at the beginning and where you first kind of heard about weight loss drugs, and then we'll go from there?
I was just kind of seeing it on the internet, like the celebrities were doing it, and I didn't really think much of it. And then I started hearing about quite a few other people who were on it and had really good results from it.
And can I ask you why you wanted to take it?
I was just not happy with my weight, and I tried alternative routes of trying to lose weight, and I could just never get past where I wanted to be.
And then the last time you took it, what happened?
It was only for the week and I felt fine. And then on Saturday I was at work on night shifts, so obviously I'm not eating regularly. I'm busy in work, so you kind of skip your regular meals. I just started to feel really, really, really weird at about 2 a.m. So I was feeling dizzy, clammy, shaky, feeling like I was going to pass out basically. And being on the pen obviously doesn't help whatsoever. I got something to eat and drink, but at that time my body was just like, no. And I started vomiting and going in and out of fainting. So some of the staff members took me down to A&E, and I ended up in A&E for a couple of hours on IV fluids and having IV anti-sickness. I was just so scared. I was terrified. My heart rate was through the roof. My blood pressure was sky high. My mind just took over then.
Just gonna put this here. Does this look right? Okay, right. To try and make sense of all of it now. It turned out to be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. But should it be that easy? So we know you can get it through the NHS and buy it privately through like online pharmacies. And I guess the question is, if you can go online and lie about your weight, does there need to be other regulations in place?
If people aren't sort of at least seen either on a sort of camera video or checked when they go to collect the prescription, then it would make it easier for people to get this medication after lying. So I think we do need to look at that.
I spoke to Superdrug and Simple Online Pharmacy, and I asked them to explain why myself and others are able to lie about our weight and be approved for Wegovy, a prescription drug. Superdrug said the safety and well-being of patients remain our top priority. All medical consultations between a patient and healthcare professional relies on integrity and honesty of patients. Prescribing protocols are regularly reviewed and new measures are implemented where required. Since my prescription was approved by Superdrug, they've introduced enhanced assessments, and new patients will have to submit 3 date-verified photographs. And Simple Online Pharmacy said, "We take clinical care very seriously and have numerous checks and protocols in place for prescribing. They told us they're carrying out a full review into my case and said they constantly seek to enhance our ability to identify falsified patient information." After taking these findings to the General Pharmaceutical Council, they confirmed they're following up with the pharmacies involved. They published guidance specifically for the safe and effective provision of pharmacy services and are issuing an updated version of guidance shortly, which will set out additional safeguardings around medicines used for weight management. And lastly, Novo Nordisk. They're the company behind Ozempic, Wegovy and Saxenda. They said they do not promote, suggest or encourage the use of any of the medications outside their approved labels.
And even though I've lost 115 pounds and counting, what is, always going to be your guiding light is what's inside and truly how you feel about yourself. And, just because how your clothes fit and number on the scale is not going to change, how you feel on the inside.
There is a lot of social pressure to look a certain way, but your health is worth so much more.
A special report there from Sky's Lucy Marley as part of our Off Limits series. And a reminder, if you've been affected by the issues in her report, the NHS recommends BEAT, which is a charity focused on eating disorders. You can get in touch with them at beateatingdisorder.org. The details there on your screen. Still to come on the programme, in the sport, a record-breaking day for Britain at the Australian Open. We'll bring you all the details with David Garrido. And tributes tonight to the comedian Tony Slattery, who has died at the age of 65. I'll speak to the co-host of his podcast.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
President for a second time.
That reason being to save our country, he said.
A remarkable moment, isn't it?
Another chance, another 4 years. The question is, what does he do with those 4 years?
Watch the inauguration of Donald Trump as he becomes president for the second time.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The full story, first on Sky News.
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
We'd been warned that we would meet people in the lowest moment of their lives.
Their story is one of fundamental American failure. Well, a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club, but I have to say there are more media here than there are supporters.
We love Trump!
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here, but the anger too. This is just the audience that Joe Biden wanted.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important, it's at the heart of the issue.
For all the talk of a toned-down, humbled Trump, yes, maybe there was just a little less rhetoric, a little less divisiveness, but in the end it was the same rhythm, the same speech, the same man.
All them people that died in Russia and Ukraine, they'd still be alive today if Donald Trump was president.
If it was my wish, have a businessman that's strong like Trump, but maybe just doesn't say as much, you know?
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What we've been allowed to see over here is a humanitarian corridor, free wherever you get your news.
A young American medical student is making remarkable things happen.
I've seen a lot of difficult things, and honestly, it breaks my heart. These children don't deserve that.
I don't think there's a single Arab I know who isn't seriously disturbed by what's going on.
And so they gathered for this wonder of nature.
I'm very excited right now.
This is an extraordinary moment beyond anything I could have expected. Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. Coming up, I'll speak to the co-host of Tony Slattery's podcast. This is after the death of the comedian at the age of 65. But first, David is here with the sport, and we're looking at the Australian Open. Emma Raducanu and Katie Boulter winning their opening matches to make it 6 Brits in the second round. A record in the Open area, so the girls are doing well.
Yeah.
What does this say about the current state of British tennis? Because we were only looking at the men's rounds the other day.
Right, and the thing is, I'm really glad that you mentioned the girls doing well, because 4 of those 6 are in the women's singles, because there's also Jodie Burrage and Harriet Dart, as well as perhaps the better-known Brits like Boulter and Raducanu. But both of these wins were really hard fought. I mean, Emma Raducanu knocked out a seed, but she won 7-6, 7-6, first of all, and she also was broken 6 times in the match, and she sent down 15 double faults. So it was really kind of quite a battle. She'd also suffered back spasms in the build-up to the Australian Open, but she managed to hold her nerve when she most needed to. Remember, of course, 2021 US Open champion has struggled with changes of coaches, with surgery since then, but finally started to get a little bit of consistency. And then that was 5 Brits, and then Katie Boulter, way off her best, but she still beat Rebecca Marino of Canada in 3 sets, but she described this match as way too stressful. So, yeah, I think for everyone watching,
I don't think it's going to get any easier, is it?
No, not really. I think for Boulter, Beatrice had admired the 15th seed. That could face him round 3. But for Raducanu, and I tell you what, this would be an amazing match to watch. If she got through and Iga Swiatek got through to the 3rd round, and she's bound to, then that will be... you'd imagine that would be a prime-time slot at Melbourne Park. And neither of them have been past the 2nd round. So first things first, But then that would be an absolute blockbuster, I think, Ricardo Swiatek.
Katie Bolter saying it's really stressful, but she ended with a nice big smile on her face, which we like to see. What else happened at the Open today?
Unfortunately, we lost a Brit in Cameron Norrie, former Wimbledon semi-finalist. He won the first set against Matteo Berrettini, but then lost the next 3. He said that he could barely practice before the match due to illness. But I have to say, you know, one of the stories of the last day's play at Melbourne Park, Daniil Medvedev, who is the marathon man at the Aussie Open. He loves a 5-setter. The last 5-setter he lost to Jannik Sinner in the final last year. He was 2 sets up. However, this time he was facing the world number 418, Kasadit Samrej, who's a wild card from Thailand. Made very hard work of it. Towards the end of set 3, smashed his racket against the camera on the net, got warned and had to obviously, you know, pay for the camera. He's been fine, but still got through. And 38-year-old Gael Monfils, huge, like veteran, got through in 5 as well. So yeah, we're getting some mammoth encounters at the Australian Open. It's making for very entertaining viewing.
Plenty more to come.
Yes, absolutely. And also plenty of live football tonight to tell you about.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
I often describe youth development as the true 92 club system. It's irrespective of your divisional status. It's truly operating across the Premier League and the EFL, developing players at every level. Some clubs are looking at it from the perspective of trying to develop homegrown players. Other clubs are looking at it to help balance the book. Some clubs operate a player trading model where they're looking to identify that talent that they can develop and then maybe sell on to some of the bigger clubs, but that money can then be reinvested back in the club in order to help keep it sustainable and operating in its local community. So everybody's got different objectives.
10 years in, you had the big review. What about the future plans? What does the next 10 years look like?
The ETRLP very much focused on the holistic development of young players. But what we've done 10 years on with our ETRLP review is recognise that the landscape has changed about how you work with children, how you work with elite youth athletes, regulatory changes in football. And we've updated the ETRLP to elevate and be even more explicit around.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, the actor and comedian Tony Slattery died at the age of 65 today following a heart attack. He was best known for appearing on the Channel 4 improv show Whose Line Is It Anyway? And other series such as Just a Minute and Have I Got News for You? Let's take a quick look.
You're 2 pilots landing a plane, presumably. Starting on cue.
Quentin, can you open up the flaps? We're coming in pretty fast. Right. Sure is wild the way you work those wing flaps.
Terence, there's something I've been meaning to tell you, and I'd like to tell you before we land.
Under duress, I hope.
Very duress, yes.
Well, spit it out.
Xerxes is my name. It's not Quentin after all.
Oh, such fond memories of staying up late as a kid in the 80s to watch that show. I'm joined now by Alan Lear, who co-hosted Tony Slattery's Rambling Club podcast and was a close friend. Alan, first of all, what a talent. You know, he was comedy in the late 80s, early 90s. How will you be remembering him today?
Very fondly. He was a wonderful, warm human being. He could and he would talk to anybody. He was one of those larger-than-life presences that seems to be indestructible until you find out they've been slipping through your fingers all along. So we're all very, very upset. I'm missing him dearly.
Oh, well, Alan, I'm so sorry for your loss. How did you meet him? Because I understand that you actually met through your wife, both of you fans of his work. And I like to imagine this is how Tony Slattery made a lot of friends, because it's quite an unusual tale.
Yes, for my wife's 40th birthday, I sent birthday cards out to some of her favourite people and asked them to sign them and return them. And Tony did. And then a month later, as luck would have it, he was appearing at the Edinburgh Fringe on a Whose Line Is It Anyway stage show. So we went to see that, obviously. And we met him in the bar afterwards, and I thanked him in person for signing the card, and he remembered it, and he remembered my wife's name, and we got chatting, and it turned out that my wife knew his partner, Mark, because they were from the same place, and they had friends in common, and that we've never looked back since then.
How do you think that Tony would like to be remembered? In recent years, he was very open about his mental health struggles. He made a documentary about that. But from what we've been hearing today and from the evidence of your podcast, he'd really turned a corner and was really enjoying his work.
Yes, I mean, he was really on the up. This is why it's come as such a terrible shock, because he seemed to be doing so very well. He was, as you say, he was very open about his mental health issues, but he was doing extremely well with them. He was enjoying his work, and he was loving going on tour and meeting people and finding out that people held him in such warm affection and remembered him so fondly. He was always slightly surprised and a bit bewildered to find that people were so fond of him, but they really are all over the country. And I think he would like to be remembered most as somebody who, when you were feeling a bit low, you could put him on the telly or put him on YouTube, and he'd bring a smile, and he'd just give you that little bit of impetus just to get you through one more day. I think he would have loved to know that he had that kind of positive influence in people's lives.
And just in terms of, you know, remembering him for the laughs, you know, he was one of the first comedians I watched in the TV in the 80s, on Whose Line Is It Anyway? He and Josie Lawrence and the whole improv crew. He had a real impact, didn't he, on British comedy?
Yes, I mean, they say you never forget your first love, and I think it's similar with you never forget the first people who make you laugh. And for my generation, certainly, that was Tony and Josie and Mike and the gang, as you say, on Whose Line Is It Anyway? They were the first people to kind of reach through the telly and bring you into a world that felt like your own and that you were allowed to laugh at it. And I think that gift of finding something special is something you maybe only get once a lifetime. And Tony always saw it as a great privilege to be one of the people who did that for people.
Well, he brought so much joy, and I know that today a lot of people have been revisiting his work and rediscovering that joy, and that's a really lovely note to end on. Alan, thank you so much. Alan Lear there, co-host of Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, remembering his colleague and close friend, Tony Slattery. Thank you. That's all from us tonight. Anna Botting is next with The World. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8.